Do you ever notice how we get weirdly high from inside? Something clicks and suddenly we are sitting there thinking, oh, that's it. And for a moment, it genuinely feels like something just shifted for good. Like we cracked ourselves. Like we finally understood what's been running in the background this whole time. It's such a specific kind of high, too. Not full rock bottom lunatic high. More like we took one emotional gummy, opened a notes app, and now we are staring at the wall like a junior monk who just discovered psychology, just a little spiritually toasted. If you slow that moment down, it's almost uncomfortable how convincing it is. You reread the same line because it hits. You pause like your brain just received something important. There's a tiny sense of arrival in it, just enough to create the feeling that something meaningful has happened. But has it really? So let's look at the 3 reasons why insight alone changes nothing in real life and what actually does. So reason number 1, the insight itself replaces the action. See, the moment when something clicks, that internal lift, that sense of, I get it now, is already enough to satisfy us. The body registers a shift and treats it as if something has been resolved, a tiny dopamine spike, even though nothing external has moved. The urgency softens, and without noticing, we stop short of actually doing anything. It's like watching a football game and getting high from scoring without ever setting foot on the field. It's not a conscious decision, it's more like the need to act dissolves just enough that we don't follow through. And that tiny dissolve is enough. We don't need to fully betray ourselves. Just enough not to press send. Just enough to not say the true thing. Just enough to delay one more day while feeling strangely noble about how aware we are. You can see it in simple situations. We are about to send a message we've been avoiding. There is tension around it. And then suddenly, you understand why you are resisting. You see the pattern, maybe even connect to it on some deeper level. And in that moment, it feels like you've already done something meaningful. The tension drops slightly. And instead of sending the message, you just sit there with the understanding. Nothing changed in reality, but internally it feels like progress. So we treat it as if it counts. That's why insight is so seductive. It gives relief without the risk. It gives the emotional taste of movement without the exposure of movement. And it lets us feel like we participated in our life while still standing safely in the hallway. And when that loop closes often enough, years go by. Big things stay theoretical. Relationships remain vague. Work remains almost born. And desire becomes an internal museum exhibit we keep dusting and describing instead of living. And here comes reason number 2, why insight changes nothing in real life. And it's that insight makes the self-identity feels smarter. So when people hear the word identity, it often sounds abstract, but here it's simple. It's the ongoing sense of being someone, the version of you that has a story, patterns, explanations, preferences, and continuous narrative about why things are the way they are. Insight doesn't dissolve that, it refines it. Before insight, it reacts without much awareness. After insight, it becomes self-aware and articulate. It can explain itself, name patterns, describe behavior with precision. It sounds more intelligent, more developed, and more in control. It starts sounding like that very stoned person at 2 a.m. who suddenly feels chosen to explain consciousness to everyone in the kitchen while still being unable to wash one plate or answer one honest email. The language gets upgraded, the life does not. What changes is the quality of the explanation, not the behavior itself. And because the explanation improves, it creates the impression of growth. We don't just have the problem anymore, we have a beautiful interpretation of the problem, a mature, layered, emotionally literate way of remaining exactly where we are. So instead of being stuck and confused, we become stuck and articulate. From the inside, that feels like a major shift. For the ego, it feels like a major shift. But from the outside, nothing essential has moved. But the moment we see that our intelligence is being used to maintain the structure instead of interrupt it, something real becomes possible. Not because we found the perfect explanation, but because the explanation loses status. We stop being so impressed with our own commentary. And finally, reason number 3. Insight builds the map. Understanding is just a representation. It's a map. It helps describe reality, but it isn't reality itself. And we can spend an enormous amount of time improving that map. We add detail, nuance, connections, explanations, and we refine how we see ourselves and our situation until it becomes very precise, very accurate, and very impressive. We become like someone in a basement making the most sophisticated travel vlog in human history about a city we never entered. Drone footage, voiceover, color grading, emotional soundtrack, but still in the basement, still not gone anywhere. And at some point, that clarity starts to feel like movement, but the map is still separate from the territory. You can see this in everyday behavior. We think about what we want to do, we analyze it, prepare, imagine outcomes, and refine the approach. All of that feels active and engaged, but the actual step into reality doesn't happen. The message remains unsent, the decision remains open, the change remains just conceptual. Because the preparation feels so real, it replaces the need to act. And over time, this becomes a pattern where it just stretches for years. And that's the tragedy. Not that we were stupid, not that we lacked insight. It's that we were sincere and still absent. We were circling the runway with a lot of beautiful language and never landing. But once we stop worshipping the map, life gets shockingly immediate. One clumsy move can do more than 5 years of elegant self-understanding. And desire is no longer a concept we discuss like philosophers on mushrooms. It becomes a place we actually step. Real change doesn't feel like insight. It doesn't come with that clean internal click or that satisfying sense of having figured something out. It shows up in behavior, period. Often in a way that feels slightly awkward or exposed because it's happening in real time, not in thought. No choir, no glowing inner monologue, no moment where we stare out the window like a beautifully broken genius. Just a plain old shift in what we do, which, frankly, is rude. We wanted enlightenment. Life hands us a weird conversation and a trembling thumb over the send button. You say something you weren't saying before, even if it doesn't come out perfectly. You stop doing something you used to do automatically, even if it feels unfamiliar. Or you respond differently in a situation where you would have followed the same pattern. And weirdly, this is much more alive than the false glow of insight. That difference is the only reliable indication that something has changed. Everything else, all the insight, all the clarity, all the understanding, can function as a substitute if it never crosses into action. It can create the appearance of movement while leaving everything structurally the same. And in my book, Wanting Illusion, I go much deeper into this mechanism to expose real direction in life. You'll find it in the description. And once that really lands, something opens that is bigger than insight. We stop trying to feel changed and start noticing where change actually costs something. We stop getting spiritually high on recognition alone. And what becomes possible then is not some polished new identity. It's contact. It's the kind of aliveness that does not need to feel profound every 5 minutes because it is finally actually happening.